The Dalmore 12-year-old Highland single malt Scotch whiskey. This may be one of the most challenging whiskey reviews I have ever done. And if you stay tuned, I'll tell you why. So on my whiskey journey, I've explored a lot of distilleries. Some distilleries I've just gone full deep into, such as Ardbeg, trying all of the core range, plus every release they've ever had, or Bunnahabhain, or a lot of other distilleries. But there are some distilleries you hear about, and one of these days I'll get around to trying one of those. Now, some of those distilleries that you want to try the whiskeys is because there's a lot of hype and everybody's into it. You want to find, so is all the buzz about that distillery true? And so you want to explore that and try that. But then there's some other distilleries and some other whiskeys you might hear negative things about, and you're like, wow, every time that distillery is mentioned, people say a lot of negative things about it. And so I really put on the back burner that, yeah, eventually I'll do one of those whiskeys from that distillery, but it'll be later in my journey. I'm in no rush to try a whiskey that a lot of people tend to just give it the thumbs down. And the Dalmore Distillery is one of those that, at least within the whiskey tuber world, a lot of people kind of stick their nose up at it and have a lot of negative things about it. Such that when I hear Dalmore, the first thing that goes to my mind is E150 and cold chill filtering. Right, it's the first thing that comes into your mind. And people, Dalmore, blah, 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 blah. And there's some other distilleries that in that same sort of boat. The challenge is, in terms of a reviewer and evaluating a whiskey, is how do you come to it neutrally, so that the prejudices or the pre-thoughts about the distillery and the whiskey aren't affecting your judgment and perception, so that you can be actually honest with it and give it an honest evaluation of it, rather than you've pre-decided because of what everybody has said in the whiskey community about a particular whiskey. Well, not everything I've heard about Dalmore is negative. Like Macallan and some of these other distilleries, there are some devotees, and Jura. Jura is one I've not been impressed with, but there is a fan group of Jura that people really like it for whatever reason. I just found it to be sort of okay. But there's a fan group and people who are big devotees of Dalmore. So it's a very sort of, people seem to love it or not love it. I don't know, hate is a little strong word. And so I'm like, okay, how in the world am I going to give it a fair shake and give it an honest evaluation? Well, the best thing to do is pour yourself a wheat dram and do some reading about the history of the distillery, which I'm going to share with you now. Dalmore Distillery is located in Alness, Scotland, 20 miles or 32 kilometers north of Inverness. It sits on the banks of the Cromarty Firth, overlooking the Black Isle, the big meadowland from which it takes its name. In 1839, Alexander Matheson founded Dalmore Distillery. 1867, brothers Alexander, Andrew, and Charles Mackenzie run the distillery. In 1870, Dalmore is the first malt whiskey to be exported to Australia. In 1874, the number of stills was increased to 4. In 1891, the Mackenzie brothers bought the distillery for £14,500 from Sir Kenneth Matheson. In 1917, Dalmore Distillery closed. The buildings were used to assemble American mines by the Royal Navy. In 1920, the Royal Navy leaves, leaving behind a site that is damaged by an explosion. In 1922, Dalmore Distillery began production again. In 1956, the floor maltings were replaced by a Saladin box at Dalmore Distillery. In 1960, the Mackenzie Brothers Limited merged with White & Mackay Limited to form Dalmore White & Mackay Limited, now part of White & Mackay Distillers Limited. In 1966, the number of stills was increased from 4 to 8, which became all steam heated. In 1982, the Saladin box was taken out of production. In 1990, American brands bought Dalmore White and Mackay Limited. In 1996, White & Mackay Limited changed its name to Jim Beam Brands Greater Europe, or JBB. In 2001, because of the management buyout, Fortune Brands sold Jim Beam Brands Greater Europe. That changed its name to Kendall Spirit. In 2002, Kendall Spirit changed its name to White & Mackay Limited. In 2004, a visitor center was opened. In 2007, United Spirits bought White & Mackay Limited. In 2008, the 1263 King Alexander III was released. And in 2014, Emperador bought White & Mackay. The Dalmore 12-year-old single malt Scotch whiskey. The Dalmore 12 is aged for the first 9 years in American white oak bourbon casks before half is transferred to ex-Oloroso sherry casks for the final 3 years. It is bottled at 40% alcohol by volume and sells for about $60. So I've been working my way down to the shoulder, or should I say almost to the ears of this deer here, and trying this whiskey and trying to put aside everything that I've previously heard about it and try it on my own. And this is what I think. One, I can tell that they use quality casks. There are some whiskeys that are sherry casks that it just seems like they just, they got a wet cask and they dump their spirit into it, and it's just a sherry bomb, and it's not really a quality cask. It just seems like they're just taking sherry and pouring into it. This is not like that. I can tell that the spirit is well interacted with the cask, and they've really managed that really, really well. In terms of aromas and flavors, standard sherry notes, dried black fruit notes. The spice on this whiskey is really forward, both on the nose and on the palate, particularly going into the finish. Dried black fruit notes, there's a hint of orange citrus peel, a little bit of vanilla, fudge or chocolate, almost like going into a dark chocolate note, maybe a little bit of lemon on the palate. It has a nice balance of sweetness and dry. It dries on the back end, and then with the spice. So dried black fruit notes. In the mid palate, it starts to fade and disappear. It's almost as if you have an entry and a finish, and then you took a drink of water in the middle. The middle of the palate is hollow, but then the finish kicks in, and I'm getting more spice towards on the tail, on the finish, on the follow through, and it's actually quite nice. I'm still tasting now. So, same thing I got on the nose, we got on the palate. Orange citrus peel, Christmas cake, everybody likes to say Christmas cake, a lemon, the little chocolate notes, baking spice. It is really a spice-driven whiskey. I'm still tasting those spices now. Just a hint of vanilla and that fudge character going in there. This was a really good whiskey. They've taken out the middle of it. They've gone too far in bringing it down to 40 ABV. Not 43, not 46, 40 ABV. And that's where I think it's gone too far. You can see in taste, smell, the greatness that is there. They've just taken the heart out of it. They've just removed the center of this whiskey. If they had kept the ABV a little higher, 46, at least 46, and not cold chill filter it, it would still have something in the mid palate that would really give it a nice balance and have a nice follow through from the front into the middle and into the finish. And unfortunately, I think it's got a really nice nose, it's got a really nice entry and a real nice finish. It's just in the middle of it that just sort of undermining the whole whiskey. And that's sad. It's sad. It's so unnecessary. I would say I enjoy the whiskey. It's in reading a book, watching a movie or something. I enjoy it. The fact that the finish is so long, it makes it work. and you go back to it. It's just something in the middle that's not quite there. Well, I'm going to give it in terms of a score. I'm going to go solid, a B score, and give it a solid 85, just an 85. It makes me want to try their other whiskeys if they're a higher ABV and of a higher quality, because you can see the potential that is there, and sadly lost. It could be so much better. It could be so much better. All right, that's it for this review. If you subscribe to this channel, I want to thank you very much. If you've not yet subscribed, but you like watching my videos, I would greatly appreciate it if you subscribe. Ring the bell to be notified when I go live or post a new video. Until next time, Slanja. Hey, don't forget to subscribe and check out these other whiskey videos.